Good evening and welcome to the Guilderland Central School District's 2022 Meet the Candidates Night. I'm Ashwarya Selvam and my fellow GHS student Janine Zhao and I will be the moderator and timekeeper for the forum this evening. This program is sponsored by the Guilderland PTA Council and produced by the Guilderland High School Media Department. The goal of this program is to bring forward the views of the candidates that are present here tonight. All candidates running for election were invited to tonight's forum and we are joined tonight by the 9 of the 10 candidates. 3 candidates will serve 3-year terms beginning July 1st, 2022. The seats are currently held by Gloria Tolehill, Barbara Frederigo, and Kelly Person. 1 candidate will serve a 1-year term until June 30th, 2023 to fill a vacancy created by the resignation of Benjamin Goes. Kimberly Blasiak was appointed by the board to fill the seat until the next regularly scheduled school board election. The candidates here tonight are seated in the order they will appear on the ballot on Tuesday, May 17th. The candidates are Katie DiPierio, Nicole Coonrad, Kimberly Blasiak, April McAllister, Mark Reamer, Jennifer Romano, Kelly Person, William Kearney, who is not present here today, Gloria Tolehill, and Barbara Frederigo. This evening's forum will be organized as follows. Each candidate will have the opportunity to give a 3-minute opening statement introducing themselves. Directly after this, we will begin our questions, which have been prepared by the PTA Council members. Each candidate will have 2 minutes to answer each question. At the end of the questions, each candidate will have 3 minutes for closing remarks. If everyone is all set, we will get started with opening statements. We'll begin with Katie DiPierio.
Hi, I'm Katie DiPiero. I am a proud parent of two Guilderland students. I have a son at the high school, a daughter at the middle school. I am a Capital Region BOCES special education teacher. I'm very fortunate because we moved here to Guilderland because we wanted our children to attend Guilderland schools. And while teaching at another local school, my program was transferred to Guilderland, so I was able to actually teach within my children's school district, which was a nice opportunity for me. It gave me the chance to work alongside teachers in the district to get to know the programs here within the district and the administrators, the programs, and to get to really know how things work and how to work collaboratively with people within the community and also with people within the district. As a parent and teacher within the schools, I quickly joined the PTA. I am finishing my 2nd term as vice president of the Pine Bush PTA. I'm vice president of events and activities, and I am also currently the secretary for the Guilderland High School PTSA. So it's been a nice opportunity for me to work collaboratively, building connections between the school and the community. I also am the newly elected Capital Region BOCES Union president, and as my work with NYSED, I have been advocating for public schools at the local and state level, learning about policy and how to support public schools. It gave me a chance to become familiar with the state budget, which would help developing a fiscally responsible budget with the board members. So overall, I've had a broad experience both as a parent, teacher, and with my state advocacy through NYSED to bring to Guilderland schools. And I thank you for giving us this opportunity to present all of the candidates and where we stand and what we hope to bring to the district. Thank you.
Hi, yes, my name is Nicole Coonrad. I have lived in Guilderland School District for more than 10 years. I have 2 daughters who go to Guilderland. One is in 7th grade and one is in 3rd. And they've been in Guilderland since kindergarten. My overall experience with Guilderland has been very good. My girls have made many special bonds with their teachers, and for that I am very grateful. My primary purpose in wanting a seat on the board is to be a voice for members of the community. I think the board should consist of community members of all different backgrounds with all different perspectives. Board members should be able to work with others while maintaining respect for one another. Also with community members, remaining respectful to them as well. And I feel I can bring this to the board. I believe there should be 100% transparency from our public schools, and I believe parents have the right to know what's going on in the classrooms, not to give the teachers a hard time, but to help the teachers, support the teachers, and to support their students. I want to see that every student is comfortable in their school and that they are given all the necessary tools to be successful. And that's why I'm here, for the students and to be a voice for parents in the community.
Thank you. Our next candidate will be Kimberly Blasiak.
Hi, I'm Kim Blasiak. I'm a current board member. I have 4 children in the Guilderland schools currently. I have a 2nd grader, I have a 6th grader, a 10th grader, and a 12th grader. We've lived in the Guilderland School District since July of 2015. Actually chose Guilderland after a 4-year search of moving from the Syracuse area, of watching different board meetings, researching the different districts, and really liked what we saw with Guilderland. Currently within Guilderland, I am the Guilderland PTA Council Vice President. I'm the Guilderland Community SEPSA Co-President, also one of the founders of the SEPSA. I am the Pine Bush PTA Treasurer. I'm also the Guilderland Indoor Track Booster Club President. I'm active with the Guilderland Cross Country Team. I'm also on the New York State Educational Conference Board with New York State. I'm also the New York State Education Department Family Community Engagement Framework Advisory Council. This is something near and dear to my heart, especially because I do believe that you need a home school partnership in order to make every student successful. I'm also the outreach coordinator for New York State PTA on the New York State PTA Board of Directors. The reason that I'm running to keep my seat is I want to continue to be a voice for every student. That's something that I take very personally, especially from PTA. I believe fully in every child, one voice. I believe that we need to have a fiduciary responsibility to our community to make sure that we're doing what we need to be doing, that every student gets what they need, that our teachers and our staff get what they need to feel supported. It needs to be a community effort. I also want to remain on the board to disperse information. When I was new to the district, I looked at all of the board docs. I watched the meetings when I was able to. I joined PTA because we had our superintendent and our Board of Ed representative. I just want to continue to be part of the process to make sure that not only is our community heard, because people who know me know I'm a very vocal person, but I talk to a lot of teachers and students and community members, and I just want to keep doing what we're doing to make sure the kids get what they need. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is going to be April McAllister.
Hi, I'm April McAllister. I was born and raised, I graduated from South Colony High School, and while I'm a newer parent here in Guilderland, I have 2 kids in elementary school. I was able to experience Guilderland from another district growing up. So when I did have children and I decided where I wanted to settle down, Guilderland was my top pick. I was raised seeing them on an athletic level. I saw them on an academic level, and I also experienced peers from Guilderland as I moved through the BOCES program. I graduated from high school and cosmetology school at the same time. After that, I knew this is where I was going to plant myself when I raised kids, because I saw such great things from this district. So going through the BOCES program, becoming a hairdresser, I had that entrepreneur itch. So I opened my own business, and going through that whole process has really positioned me in the community to build relationships, get to know parents, and just really be a part of the community. So I've met a lot of people my time here in Guilderland. I've been here for 13 years, and my 2 kids are still in elementary school. So I do not have a list of degrees or certifications to present you, but I am here because I'm a mom. And I have been in this position the last couple of years, meeting other moms and dads and parents and people of the community who are just seeking a change. I'm here on behalf of them. I am a concerned parent, and I know I don't stand alone. My career and my position as a mom has enabled me to hear from people of Guilderland, the parents, teachers, community members, residents, and I'm here seeking a seat on the board to have a voice for all of them. The people of Guilderland, they're tired. They're tired of things that have been happening. They're tired of power trips, agendas, and again, these are words that people of our community are expressing to me. The people of Guilderland, they want to see schools get back to the basics and serving the immediate needs of the children academically. The people of Guilderland, they want to see the academic ratings go back up to what they used to be. Again, that's what brought me to this area. Residents of our district, they want to help local families get more involved in the school and in the district. Parents want more transparency. Taxpayers, they want to see exactly where their astronomical tax dollars are going. And I want to help have a seat on this board so I can dig deeper into those things. You know, I come on behalf of everybody, the teachers who are afraid to speak up because even their own teachers' unions right now are currently not showing equality and support of, I'll finish later.
Thank you. Next is going to be Mark Reamer.
Yes, thank you. My name is Mark Reamer. I'm a lifelong resident of the district. I was born and raised in McCownville, and out of high school, I was working a night janitor job, going to Hudson Valley, taking electrical courses, and I was offered a management position, and I worked my way up through to be an executive manager. I was in charge of the food costs for a district. After that, I founded my own business for 35 years, which is just winding down now because of COVID. Restaurant Systems Incorporated. I've operated in 5 states. I had offices out in Hartford and Vermont, and small business guy, you know. I'm used to dealing with one-on-one with business owners. My wife and I both graduated in 1975 from Guilderland. My wife's name is Wendy. We were married in 1979. We have 2 children also who graduated K through 12 from Guilderland schools. I have 4 grandchildren, do not live in the district because I'm on the edge of the district. My wife's an RN at Albany Medical Center. She's in the pediatric recovery room for 40 plus years. My interests are music and sports. Avid Rangers fan, they're playing tonight. I advocated for the hockey team to come to Guilderland way back when John Carpentier was one of the board members. I was working through him. I coached hockey for 9 years. My son played. After that, we were referees for USA Hockey for a few years before my legs kind of gave out. My daughter, Jonna, was very avid here in music. She was on the chamber choir. She also did the Melodies of Christmas. She was actually the very first student, I'm quite sure, to come from Guilderland to do the melody. She did them several years in a row. My concerns, probably the deficit these kids have gone through for 2 years of being masked and virtual. There's a lot of information, that gap that has been lost, and I don't know that it can be made up, but we've got to do what we can, and I'm not sure that's being addressed. We're currently 11th place in testing. We used to be 2 or 3 or 4 consistently. That's a concern. On budget, especially I'm retiring and we're going to be on a fixed income. And this year, I just looked at the taxes. It's only 3%. I can handle that, but it was 17% the previous 2 years for me, for my taxes personally. Not sustainable. I'm not saying we have to cut. I'm just saying we have to control what we spend in the future. I want to promote parental input and knowledge. A lot of parents are coming to me and saying that their kids are coming home telling them things that they're concerned about. They don't know that they can go to the school. I want to bring ballots to the board. That's basically where I stand.
Thank you. Next is going to be Jennifer Romano.
Jen Romano. We have 3 children in the district, 2 at Farnsworth and 1 at Westmere. I'm running for the school board to ensure safer schools that embrace diversity, equity, and inclusion. I'm running to transform what's possible through simple innovation and collaboration within the greater community. I encourage you to visit my Facebook page, Jen Romano for Gilderland School Board, to learn more about who I am, my education, what I've achieved, and my vision for safer, more inclusive schools that leverage our human capital. There are certain moments in your life that will just change your trajectory. Minutes before the bus arrived home 5 years ago, my phone would ring and reveal my child's safety had been compromised during recess. No supervising adult had seen anything but had confirmed the incident. I did my best to contain my devastation as I held my child in my lap and pieced together what had happened. In that moment, I had a choice. Would I be a parent who berated administration and staff? Would I be a parent that puddled up in tears, hoping to escape to those precious moments before the phone rang? Or would I be a parent that would commit themselves to making our schools safer? If you only remember one thing about me tonight, please let it be this. When I am faced with a fight or flight situation, I often take solace in a third option, being an upstander and doing what is right. The right thing to do was to utilize my skills, knowledge, and abilities to enhance the safety of our playground. My consultant background flowed through me as I gathered information, researched DASA and Vader, and prepared a petition for playground safety for the board. I presented simple, no or low-cost suggestions to improve safety on our playground, and they listened. I continued making suggestions, and eventually I was invited to join our district safety security committee. That commitment has extended me opportunities to also sit on the gun safety and social media subcommittees. When I'm not focused on making our schools safer, I'm sharing my creative and fundraising talents in and out of the classroom. I've independently raised thousands of dollars for Westmere and purchased inclusive playground equipment. In addition, I started the Got Sneakers recycling program, which has raised thousands more. I was content in my current safety role within the district until the phone rang in March of this year, and I would learn of another devastated incident, this time at Farnsworth, that would be the catalyst for me sitting here this evening. My platform focuses on 3 major pillars: safety first, DEI, and leveraging the greater community. I have worked very hard to establish my vision for these 3 areas on my Facebook page, Jen Romano for Gilderland School Board. I believe we have the potential to increase community involvement, fundraising achievements, and employee retention. I want to maximize our human capital and show our children we're united for their future. I want to take some pressure off our employees by identifying ways we can help. And lastly, I want to help parents find their place in our school community. Thank you for this opportunity to serve your families and our schools.
Thank you. Next is going to be Kelly Person.
Hi, good evening. First, I'd like to thank you all for putting on this event. I know there was a lot of time and effort put forth, so thank you. My name is Kelly Person, and I'm running for my 2nd term on the board. 2 out of the 3 years have been in the midst of a global pandemic. So again, I'd like to thank the parents, the teachers, the students, the administrators, bus drivers, TAs, lunch professionals, mechanics, janitors, and the administration for really pushing through the past 2 years and really making our community safe and ultimately keeping our kids in our schools. It's a huge undertaking, so I really appreciate the amazing effort that was put forth. As for me, I consider myself local, even though I grew up in Dutchess County. However, I went to school at SUNY Albany, and I've spent the majority of my adult life here. While in college, I enlisted in the Air National Guard right here in Schenectady, finished up college, and then I got commissioned right after that and went to be a navigator for the next 18 years. I spent 18 years or so flying airplanes to Antarctica and Greenland and everywhere in between. About 5 years ago, I transitioned to be an inspector general at our wing, and now I'm inspector general for the whole Air National Guard. I work remotely from home. I review military whistleblower investigations, and I love it. So my wife and I settled here in Guilderland, similar to everybody else for the schools, but also because she grew up here along with her siblings and my in-laws decided they were going to settle here. We have 4 children, 3 of which attend Guilderland right now. We're at GES. My twins are in 3rd grade, and I have 1 in kindergarten, and 1 more along the way. She'll be in school, depending on the pre-K situation, in probably 2 years. I've really enjoyed being part of the board. This is how I chose to get involved pretty early on in my child's education. I'm proud of what we've done, and I hope we can continue on what we're doing for the district here. There's so much work to be done, and it would be an honor to stay on the board. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is going to be Gloria Tolhilt.
Good evening. My name is Gloria Tolhilt, and I'm running for re-election to the Board of Education. I retired from the Guilderland Schools. I taught here for many years, and so I am a retiree on a fixed income. I have a long and deep connection to this district. My husband, Bob Hilt, he taught here also for 30 years in language arts at Farnsworth, and I taught 35 years in social studies at 7th grade. The fact that we both spent our entire professional careers here in Guilderland tells you a great deal about how great we felt this district was and this system is. I was encouraged here to grow professionally, and I was provided many opportunities to do so. From my work as on the academic teams, as a social studies teacher at Farnsworth, to setting up the first program for kids at risk, and also for going on to set up a program for the enrichment students. So my experience has been with a diverse number of students, a diverse population. Bob and I raised 2 of our children here, 2 children here, and both of them have gone on to successful careers. They both went through the Guilderland elementary and secondary schools. One of them is in music education, teaching, and the other one is a systems administrator at the University of Vermont. The mission of the school district has always been to provide every child with the education that will help them reach their fullest potential. An education that meets the needs of the whole child. It's a mission that I have completely committed to for the entire time I've been here in Guilderland, and I'd like to continue to do so. As a member of the Board of Education for these last 15 years, I am currently serving as the Vice President. I have been a longtime member of both the Communications Committee and the Business Practices Committee. And each year I, like many of my fellow board members, serve as liaison to one of our schools in the district. And there we are parts of the PTA and present and we give reports from the board to the PTA about what's going on. I've also served on numerous hiring committees within the district over the course of these past 50 years, maybe doing school hirings as well as district hirings. I make an effort to attend student events as much as possible at all the schools. I currently serve on the newly formed Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee, along with a committed staff, some committed staff members, community members, and student representatives. I firmly believe that this work builds on our efforts to become that place where each child is welcomed, affirmed, accepted, appreciated, and educated to their highest levels. Some of you might be wondering, why on earth would you want to keep running for the board? I've thought about this and reflected on it for a number of months now. And it usually happens to me, my answer comes when I'm reading. And one evening I came across this quote by Dr. Martin Luther King. "Our lives begin to end the day we become silent on the things that matter." School boards matter, and I like to continue serving the community.
Thank you. Lastly, we'll have Barbara Fraderigo.
Yes. Hi, I'm Barbara Fraderigo. I'm running for re-election, as Gloria is. I've been on the board for quite a number of years. But, you know, I just love serving my community, and I care deeply about each and every child. I've served as president and vice president of the board on numerous committees, policy, business practices. I just love what I do. I guess my love for education began as a youngster. My mom and dad were first-generation Americans, and they just instilled this love of education. That was the American dream, and they managed to educate four of their daughters. I went to a public high school, public grammar schools in a small town in Massachusetts, and while there, had the opportunity as a female to actually play basketball, field hockey, and softball, which I guess was unusual in that day and age. But my love of sports has never abated, and I have consistently spoken up for the benefit of athletics in a child's life and the needs of our athletes here, you know, in our own schools. As my children grew and showed an interest in sports, I volunteered as a town youth coach for over 25 years for basketball, Little League, baseball, and softball, as well as Babe Ruth baseball. My husband Phil and I have lived in the district for 50 years and have been married for 55. We have 5 children, Phil, Michael, David, Lynn, and Carrie Ann, who are functioning adults, as I like to say, and have produced 15 grandchildren for us, which we enjoy immensely. While I have served on the board, I believe that I have exhibited one very important trait. I have listened to the voices of parents, students, teachers, taxpayers, and administrators, and shared their thoughts and ideas with my fellow board members. I have advocated for small class size, anti-bullying programs, safe and drug-free schools, tax abatements for our veterans, mandatory CPR instruction, greater availability of enrichment classes, honors classes, and AP classes, as well as the inclusion of our different learners in the classroom of their peers. I worked hard to get foreign language instruction available to our elementary students. Unfortunately, after a 2-year try, we lost the program. I'm still advocating for a financial literacy course, graduation requirement for our high school students, as many states now actually require it because of the dire need for people to know a lot of things about insurances, mortgages, etc. I'd love to continue serving. I have 8 seconds left, so I just want to thank those of you who have elected me in the past. I am more than willing to serve in the future. The fire in my belly still burns bright, and I'd love to continue service. Thank you.
Thank you.
We will now be moving on to questions for the candidates. For present Board of Education members, which district committees have you chaired or belonged to, and what did that committee accomplish? For all candidates, please tell us about 2 different school or PTA-sponsored activities that you have been involved with this year. Starting with Nicole Coonrad.
Yes, so the most recent, I'm not a current member of the board, so I don't belong to any committees, but would like to definitely be involved in them if I was to get a seat. Events that I have attended recently, in Altamont, where my little one goes elementary school, I helped at the teacher appreciation luncheon. I'm very active with my daughters with their sports, attending soccer games and track meets. We also attend the Stronger Than Sarcoma events for Jenna and Gabe. You know, I really try to be as active as I can in the community and in, the schools. I feel it's definitely important for students to see parents and adults from the community active in their hobbies and what they're doing. And I would definitely continue to keep doing that.
Thank you. Next we have Kimberly Blasiak.
Yeah, I might need my 2 minutes. All right, being just for the board, because I've just recently joined in October, I'm currently on the policy committee. The policy committee right now, we've just been working on just revamping current policies, past policies. We haven't really done a lot on that. I've also been on the facilities committee of the district. I've been on the social emotional learning reentry committee for COVID. I'm currently on the building cabinet for Pine Bush. I was also on for Farnsworth before. Currently for PTA, we'll start with Pine Bush. Like I said, I am the Pine Bush treasurer. On April 29th, I actually chaired and hosted a traffic safety night in conjunction with New York State PTA for our community, just kind of a way for our kids to all get out within the community. We had Otto the Auto there. We had people from New York State PTA. We had the Fidelisaurus, the Say Cheese truck. So it was just a way for us to get outside and have a lot of fun. I've also pretty much done anything told at the middle school and high school when they need volunteers. I've helped do things for GP. I've helped bring things over to cross-country track. I'm the booster club president for cross-country track. I have arranged for speakers for the Guilderland Community SEPSA. I've also served as a special ed advocate offshoot of that. Let's see. I'm also not active, the Guilderland PTA Council Vice President. Let's see, traffic night. I'm sorry, I have a lot that I tend to do, so I want to make sure I get it. I was a past PTA president of the council. I'm just an active volunteer.
Thank you. Next, we have April McAllister.
Well, I'm a newer parent. My 2 children are in elementary school. When we first started in the Guilderland district, I became part of the PTA and volunteered as much as I could as an in-classroom parent, and any of the events that happened at our elementary school. And then we lost the last 2.5 years. So I have not been involved as much as I would have liked to be. However, I have a huge interest in becoming part of those events and volunteer programs as my children get older. And that's part of the reason why I'm seeking a seat on this board, is because I have many years ahead of me with my kids in Guilderland, and I'm eager to learn about everything I'm hearing about so far. So, yep.
Thank you. Next is Mark Reamer.
That's an easy one for me because I don't have children currently in the district. So I haven't been active for some time. This is the reason why I'm running to the board, because I would like to become active again.
Okay, thank you. Jennifer Romano.
Yes, as I stated before, I believe I'm the first non-employee or non-town affiliated member of the district-wide Safety Security Committee. I'm also on the gun safety and social media subcommittees, and I think those are very interesting ones because March for Our Lives students are trying to pass a resolution with the board to basically pass a Be Smart program that would enable information to be sent to families about how to keep your firearms safe. The social media subcommittee is also tackling the comprehensive problem of the good, the bad, the balance of social media and how we move forward with that and live with it, live in it rather than live with it. I was involved with FMS Mask this year with the Lion King production, and that was wonderful. I got to be very creative and build Zazu a bone structure and build a Pride Rock with some new friends that I made there, and various other things. Just was asked to join the Guilderland Friends and Family Parent Building Rep, so I'm going to be doing that as well. And just, I'm very active with PTA adjacent fundraisers, whether it's the coins at the Colony Center Mall, or raffling off guitars that I provided at Guilderland Music, or the Got Sneakers program, which is very successful, and I've just partnered with Freihoffer's Run for Women and Children, so I'm hoping that that's a big success as well. I think that's pretty much the majority of it.
Thank you. Kelly Person.
Hi, thanks. So as a board member, this year I'm the current chair of the audit committee, and we just completed a Title IX athletics audit of the district, and we're working to implement some of the findings from that. I've been on the communication committee that pushes out information on things like the capital project from prior years and budget votes and things similar to that. I've been on the policy committee, and we worked hard to include inclusive language in all of our district policies, and that's been a ongoing project for multiple years now. I'm on the DEI committee. Some of the things we've done there, well, one of the big things we've done there is we worked to hire the DEI director, who was fantastic. And the group is made up of community members and students and parents and administrators, and it's fantastic. Also on the business practices committee currently. As far as a parent and the PTA, We've been involved with the wonderful ice cream socials and movie nights that they've had at GES. We're looking forward to the play, I call it a play date, the event Tuesday night, election night over at GES. We enjoyed the kindergarten play date. It was so great to meet the parents of the new students, me being one of them, with our new cohort of kindergartners. Let's see, I feel like I single-handedly fund the PTA with my growing children, so we refreshed all of our GES gear this past week. I think that we sent that request in to get some new stuff. And I wrote something else down here. Oh, what I enjoy great about it is really kind of meeting the teachers and the parents in a social environment, and I think it's fantastic to see them in a different way than at school. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Gloria Tolhilt.
Thanks. With regard to PTA, my kids are long gone. They're now adults, but my connection with PTA each year is we choose a school, and I kind of vary it each year, to be a liaison to from the board. So at those meetings, it's always fun to sit at those meetings and give my report, but also to listen to the many activities that the PTA itself is doing at the various buildings. So what I try to do is look for opportunities, like when I volunteer for to help out at the book drive, or come to an event and help with the refreshments, things like that. So I look for ways of doing that. I also try to attend whatever school I'm a liaison to, as many of the concerts or plays or whatever they're doing, to make sure that I can see for myself, which is great to see what our efforts are helping our kids to become. With regards to committees, well, when you're on the board, you'll find out very quickly that there are lots of committees and lots of work to do. One of the big ones, as Kelly mentioned, is the DEI committee, which is a new committee. I've loved being a part of that. It's a tremendous group of people, and what really blows me away is the students that are on that committee, because they are just amazing kids. Also, I've been chairing the communications committee probably forever, I think. And I really love that committee because one of our top priorities has always been every year, how do we connect more with parents and with students? That students has become a new focus for us. But parents, we initiated with Dr. Weil's suggestion, the whole thought exchange idea to get the community input on various topics that we go through. So that's been a wonderful thing. We also put together a handbook for board members with things like how to make sure that we answer emails to parents and making sure that we're staying in touch with parents. I've sat on facilities task force, budgets task force through the business practices committee that I'm on and have chaired many years. We do things like, passing the bus propositions that will go to the full board for approval, looking at insurance programs and things like that. So those have kept me pretty busy.
Thank you. We're moving on to Barbara Federico.
Hi, as I reflect over my years of service, probably the main committee that I've been focused on is policy. I've chaired that for many years. And this year I'm also on business practices, because most of us serve on a couple of committees. As I reflect back, business practices did not exist as a committee many years ago. And it was as a result of attending a school board convention where a presentation was made that there should be such a committee. We proposed it and the board voted on it, and so it exists today. Over the course of the years, golly, I have served on the Safe and Drug-Free School Committee, School to Work Committee, the Wellness Committee, the Late Start Committee, and currently the DEI Committee, as well as Gloria pointed out, numerous screening committees as you're bringing in new employees and administrators. It has been a phenomenal experience to meet people on these committees. Most of them involve some parents and community members, and so you get a nice fresh perspective as you hear these different voices. It's not just us talking to each other or just listening to administration or teachers or whatever, but it's a great opportunity to meet people. And every year, as has been pointed out, we're assigned to a PTA. So I have been the PTA liaison for every elementary school, Farnsworth, and the high school over my years of service. And again, it's a fantastic opportunity to find out what's happening in that school, report back to the board, the message that the people attending would like you to bring back. And it's an opportunity, as I said, to share what the district is doing. So the committee system, as far as I'm concerned, is great, and our various task forces accomplish great missions. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, we have Katie DiPiero.
Thank you. As a parent, my son just began the high school this year, so I am on the board for the high school PTA. I'm secretary. I did serve, I had 2 terms as the VP of Events and Activities for the Pine Bush PTA. I stayed on an extra year. My daughter is at the middle school to help support the PTA in an attempt to try to bring back many of the enriching activities that the PTA provides to help students and teachers with programs at school. We attempted to bring many of the activities back, but unfortunately, due to continued COVID restrictions, we weren't able to get everything back, but I did stay on to help transition an extra year. So through my work on Pine Bush PTA, I have been helping to plan the activities that we're able to provide. I'm on the yearbook committee, I've worked on the playground committee, and I used to run our STEM night, so I have offered to help support that again next year. As for the arts, my daughter was in masks, so I was on the costume committee and helped with the show and helped with staying after with students with some of the chaperoning for mask in addition to the costumes. And I am actively involved in our sports programs. I feel passionately about our sports programs and what they bring to our students, both at school, on and off the field. One thing I will say through my work with the Booster Club for cross country and indoor and outdoor track is that Kim left off that we chaperone the Sky Farm trip. And so for that, we get credit for camping out in the woods for high school students. Thank you. So thank you. Yes. Thank you.
Okay, so we will now be moving on to our next question. What are your feelings about the budget presented by the district for next year? And are there any additional spending needs that you feel should be included? We'll be starting with April McAllister.
Can you repeat that again? Sorry,
Yes.
I didn't know I was going first.
What are your feelings about the budget presented by the district for next year? And are there any additional spending needs that you feel should be included?
I agree with the budget. However, part of the position I want to seek on this board is dissecting that so that we can see past expenses, how they were spent, and perhaps maybe how they could be delegated differently in not just what is in existence right now, but other things that I think the community and the parents would like to see. I mean, I understand that certain parts of the budget are not movable, but I'm seeking this position to see and dissect the other parts that are.
Okay, thank you. Next will be Mark Reamer.
I would say that I support the budget as currently written. I don't have all the details on the budget, that's why I'm getting involved. I don't believe that if I am elected, I will want to cut things so much as I will just want to look at what we spend in the future. I would like to see at least another school resource officer in the middle school, like we used to have. Ideally, I'd like to have 2 in the high school and 2 in the middle school, but it's probably not doable. Other than that, I don't have intimate knowledge with the budget.
Okay, thank you. Next will be Jennifer Romano.
Yeah, and that's part of my platform is leveraging the greater community. When you have your labor costs are always going to be an organization's largest expenditure. So having around 80% labor costs be your budget, it doesn't leave a whole lot of room for anything else. So I was hoping to suggest we create a volunteer and fundraising task force that would really maybe bring in some Chamber of Commerce folks, parents that have businesses in the area, and other key stakeholders to really identify and attempt to personalize some volunteering efforts that could really aid our educators and staff. I think it's clear that parents do want to help, we just don't know how. So if we can identify those things and then match volunteers with opportunities, perhaps on the website, and get a campaign going, I think that would be helpful. The other thing is I have several ideas to maybe generate revenue that I would also like to work on this, theoretical task force with. I think we can collaborate on something that would at least give us some extra money for the extra things. Maybe not the labor issues, but other things like supplies and other things like that. So the other opportunity I was thinking is with my consultant and HRS background, perhaps we can do some auditing in-house and save on consulting expenditures and that nature. So I might be able to work with the new director of technology and maybe with the new director of DEI and see if there are ways to save money in-house doing something like that as well. So I would not cut anything from the budget, but the budget is never enough for what we need.
Thank you. Kelly Person?
Yes, the budget is never enough. It's never going to be enough for what we really need. And I think we need to continue to advocate our state and federal governments to at least maintain the budget that we have, if not increase it for the future. That being said, yes, I support the budget. Of course, we created it. If I was to add things if we could sustain things, it would certainly be more social workers and psychologists to begin with, to combat the deficit that we've been at for the past 2 years with our children making it through this pandemic. We want to decrease our class size, so that comes with a large price tag, and it comes with more staff. And so if I had extra money, that's where I would put it as well. It's all about where the extra money. There's competing priorities everywhere. If I could wave a magic wand, those are the first two places I would put it. Everything else there's tons of things we want to do, but more would come with capital projects and things like that. That would help with a lot of different things, but those are the places that I would start if we had extra money, which we don't, but we can, but that's our job, to prioritize and reprioritize and listen to our community and see how we can best use the money that we do have. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Gloria Tolhilt.
Thank you. I remember when Dr. Wiles came on board as our superintendent, she had a way of looking at the budget that has really kind of took all of us, we all kind of got on board with it. And what she did was she said, let's start with our mission. What do we want to accomplish? That's our first thing. And then ask ourselves 3 questions. What do our students need? What can we afford to implement and sustain? And then third question of the last 2 years has been, how can the federal dollars, the COVID dollars, help us even more to help our children overcome these past 2 years? So keeping that in mind, this is kind of the focus we've been using over the last few years, and it has really served us well. One of the things we've done is, for example, the first question, what do our students need? We went beyond the group of us 9, the board members, and Dr. Wiles, 10 of us. We went beyond that. We used a thing called the Thought Exchange. We tested out, we put out questions to the community, to the students, to parents specifically, to staff, and we pulled in their ideas. And from those lists, we shaped the kind of budget that we wanted. And yes, I do support the budget, and I hope the community will as well, because it maintains or lowers class size. It preserves existing programs and services in a very difficult time. It maintains our staff levels, which was crucial to us. It supports technology leadership, which in this day and age is absolutely an important thing. And finally, it preserves and continues our emphasis on social emotional growth of children. So yes, and I urge the community to support it.
Thank you. Barbara Federico?
Yes, I certainly support the budget. If I could wave a magic wand and had additional spending, it would probably lie in the area of the middle school and class size. I've been a constant advocate of our small class sizes, both elementary, middle, and the high school as well. I would like to have, particularly the 6th and the 7th grade, if we had that extra $220,000 per section available, all of us on the board would have loved to have, reduced the class size. As Kelly pointed out, social workers, psychologists, resource officers, These are all fantastic people to have on your staff. They add so much to it, but once they're in place, and if you've used grant funds or something to bring them in, then people are going to miss it when you have to cut it because your budget can't sustain, your normal budget can't sustain it. So bottom line, yes, I totally support our budget, and certainly would have loved to reduce class sizes even more, but the finances being such as they are, we just weren't able to do it without increasing taxes. And with the tax cap in place and its huge amount of finagling and list of things that you have to do in order to meet the tax cap, we have to put out a budget that our taxpayers can support. And with the budget that we put out, 50% plus approval, and we get hopefully the budget passed. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie DiPiero?
Yes, thank you. To support much of what already has been said, of course, I support the budget, and I have worked in my role with BOCES the last 5 years for their lobby day at the state capitol to advocate for support for schools with different issues surrounding foundation aid and BOCES aid, and certainly there are years past that have been a greater struggle and battle and fight and convincing than this past year. But it, we, like everyone has said, we wish we had more available to do more, but I agree that if we, looking at the middle school, there certainly was an identified need to decrease class size for some other grades, and I know that it was talked about, and it, I was pleased to hear that people had the information. It's something that we're looking forward thinking of looking the years ahead, that the need was identified in there. And I know teachers advocated that maybe there's some areas that the elementary level that we need to look further at that may have some of the same concerns. So, I think where we're the middle school, it's a good start for decreasing class size, but to just, to work ahead and seeing what could be done in the years ahead with providing that same level of support for students at the middle school. And again, to what everyone was saying, if students need the support, and if we were able to provide more social work support, but again, the same thing, if it comes through grants, it's how to sustain that. So it's much to the support of what everyone has been saying, and I think it's good to continue with the thought exchange and get feedback from the community on what their priorities are for our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Nicole Coonrad?
Yes, budget is definitely a tough one. Obviously, I would love to see taxes not continue to go up for our community, but at the same time, there's not much wiggle room with what we have as it is. And, ensuring that the students have everything that they need to be successful is definitely, a top priority for the school board. Things that I'd like to see, like everybody else is saying, is smaller class sizes. My daughter is in 7th grade, which is one of the classes that will decrease as of next year. And I can tell you that, the stories that I hear from her in her overcrowded classrooms, it breaks my heart. I can tell the teachers are overwhelmed, some to tears in front of the students. And, that to me is definitely just not acceptable. But I also understand that we don't have unlimited funds and we can't just reduce every class size. So like Kelly was saying, prioritizing is definitely important. But just keeping in mind, our teachers and our students, and making sure that we have a learning environment for everybody that, will support success for them. So.
Thank you. Kimberly Blasiak?
Yes, I do support the budget. I did support it when the board pushed it through to go towards the public. Being that this was my first year actually on the board during the process, I'm usually an active side. I listen quite often. I'm like everyone else. I agree with everyone else. There are always things that you want. Like right now, for example, class size, of course, that we have 6 bubbles right now of elementary school that are to the point where they're going to be over the threshold, where these are our earliest learners, and a lot of them started school during COVID. They have not had a normal year. So the ideal would be where these 6 bubbles are able to have another FTE added. Also, with the middle school, we were at least lucky enough to have the additional $260,000 for the budget for next year to decrease the class sizes for the 8th grade with a plan for the additional years going to 7th and then 6th. But that would be ideal if we were able to do it right now. We had, as I believe it was Gloria said, the thought exchange, where we put it out to our community members, to our students, to our teachers, to ask them what was important to them. Over and over, we did hear class size. That's something that we've wanted to work on. It's, at this point, I mean, as a parent even, we all would wish we had a magic wand to add a million different things. Social, emotional, yes, right now we need more social workers. We need more school psychologists that are actually for general ed and not just special education. We need a lot of different additions. I have to say, considering we've done a pretty good job. What I can say also is that we need our public to actually advocate towards their elected officials for fair and equitable funding, because that's not something that the board controls. Thank you.
Thank you. We're now moving on to our next question. What are your thoughts about the work that the Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Committee is doing? How would you work to protect the dignity and safety of marginalized students in the Guilderland Central School District? We will be starting with Jennifer Romano.
I actually applied to join that next year, so hopefully I'll get that opportunity. My family is extremely diverse. We check many of the LGBTQIA plus boxes. My wife is Filipina, my children are biracial. Our youngest has been called Chinese on the bus. At baseball camp, they call him Shohei Ohtani, the Japanese MLB superstar. So as the Caucasian mom, I really have to take that into consideration, what his life is like. He's also come home from school as a preschooler asking me, Mommy, I think I just want to be the white part. So that to me says there's something still wrong in our society that we have to do something about. I fully support DEI initiatives for students, professional development for teachers, staff, and also the parents. I think it has to be a comprehensive approach here. My DEI vision on Facebook, I would like to continue to grow an educator pipeline directly from current GHS students by offering, I don't know, maybe we could do a future educators program or club where they can learn from the best. Colleges do a fantastic job tracking alumni. Why can't we do that with our graduates and track them, who the ones going into education? So maybe if they're looking for an internship or a place to begin their career, they can actually come back to us and do that. Every student and staff member should have equitable opportunities and access to the right tools that they need to be their best selves and succeed in their education and career. Everyone should feel welcome and included. My fundraising efforts at Westmere were aimed at building inclusive playgrounds that everyone could enjoy. In my DEI vision, I would like to allocate future funds to help students with special needs develop one-on-one relationships and have more access to after-school clubs and care.
Thank you. Next we have Kelly Person.
Hi. Diversity isn't going away. It just is. We need to continue moving in the direction that we have been moving into it, or moving towards. You know, we've heard from our community. We've heard you loud and clear. We've heard the students. We've heard it loud and clear. We've developed programs, and we're going to continue to do that. I absolutely love being on the DEI committee. The education piece of it that we do is fantastic. The people that are involved are phenomenal. We have tons of people that are interested in joining it. So it is not something that's going away. It's not something we're going to move backwards from. We need to embrace every student for who they are and who they aren't. It just is, and just needs to continue going the way it is. I support the training for teachers. I support training for staff. to be able to support our students, because that's what they need to do. I think they need to be able to know which pronouns to use, know what's out in the world, know what our children know, that it is, like I said, it is for them. It's not something new or something different. It's everything. It's everything. It's the way of the world. And I want to keep Guilderland on the right track. I want to keep us a leader in this. And I really hope that anybody that's on the board will continue in the direction that we're going now. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Gloria Tolhill.
Well, as a board member, I'm extremely proud. This is one of the things I think I'm proudest of, that the board took the initiative to establish this committee and to make it the kind of committee it is, especially with the students on it, who give us so much information and understanding. DEI, it's sometimes known as DEI programs. The purpose of these programs is to create a safe learning environment for all students. This can only happen when members of the community respect each other, and respect comes from knowledge, and that's one of the things that we're about as a school, to impart knowledge. Public schools are obligated to teach every child that walks through our door, and that's an obligation we take very seriously. We are mandated to provide a safe environment for every student, no ifs, ands, or buts. We're also obligated to prepare students to live in a multicultural world. That's the kind of society that they're moving into. They have to become positive, productive members of a multicultural, pluralistic society. And to do this, we have to teach them the attitudes and the skills that are needed in that kind of a world. You know, our U.S. motto is E pluribus unum, which means out of many, one. We come together as Americans, different, very different backgrounds, different languages, different religions, lots of things. But in the end, we become one nation. And I'm very proud of the work that we're doing.
Thank you. Next will be Barbara Federico.
Yes, I also serve as a board member on the DEI committee, and I was recently criticized in the press because I made a statement that as member of the committee, and particularly the engagement committee, I had learned an awful lot of history. And being what I consider a lifelong learner, I thought that was a good thing. Yes, I had heard, about the race riots and slavery and things like that, but our textbooks to this day really haven't illustrated the great contributions that people in these other communities, be they what they call IPOC, Indigenous People of Color, or the LGBTQ people. And there is such a plethora of information that I have experienced and absolutely I'm fascinated by and want to include in the curriculum to beef up our curriculum. I see that certainly as a positive. My entire service on the board has been to make every single child loved, respected, able to reach whatever heights they desire to get to, and sometimes might need a little bit of a push to reach out for. When DEI was begun, it wasn't just an emphasis on one group of individuals. We were talking about people that were poor and in poverty. One of the original things that we had was that the people who are listed as in the poverty section had the lowest test scores. And so we're concerned about that. We're concerned about every single child. And as I said, I want every child feel comfortable and able to succeed. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Katie DiPiero.
Thank you. As a parent and a special education teacher, I strongly support and am passionate about the work that the district is doing with diversity, equity, and inclusion, and that's for every student. If we're going to help our students to achieve academic success and be ready for the future and to go out into the world beyond our schools, they need to have respect, they need to have understanding, they need to learn about different people from themselves and to have respect for that, and to access the students as a teacher, to have culturally responsive teaching, to really be able to provide academic success for every student within our schools, and to really look at that from the lens too of trying to diversify the teachers that are in the schools. And I know that it's work across all of education, not just like within Guilderland, but across the whole education system, is providing diversity and access and equity for students. And I think it's important that we keep moving forward, that it's part of the world, and we need to be helping our students relate and learn about different people from themselves, and to keep moving forward from what we've been doing. I strongly support the work of the DEI committee. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Nicole Coonrad.
Yes, I definitely think diversity, equity, inclusion is very important and something that we need to focus attention on. For me, a big thing is creating unity amongst our students, just making sure that everything is presented in a way that is very respectful to others, even if there's differing opinions. I don't want to see curriculum that would cause further division. That would be my concern. But I haven't seen that with the work that the DEI committee is currently doing. I've seen very good things that they're doing, and I do support the DEI committee. But for me, yeah, just empathy is a big thing. I just want to make sure when we say inclusion that, it is including everybody, and that everybody is respectful to one another and their choices. Thank you.
Thank you. Next is Kimberly Blasiak.
Yes, one thing I did fail to mention in the beginning is I'm currently a board member on the DEI committee. I support it. I think it's needed. It's something that, we live in a global world. This is something where we don't live in a bubble. We need our community to have empathy, as Nicole said, and we need to have compassion and understanding and mutual respect. And that's all this committee is really, at the end of the day, trying to do. DEI encompasses so much more than just race or gender. It encompasses cultural differences. It encompasses religion, abilities, disabilities. There's so many different facets. And this is something where it's our job, just even as community members, put board aside community members, to make sure that the students that we're putting through this district feel supported and safe in the building, and that they're understood as well. And this is something where I was lucky enough during COVID when I sat with my son. Unfortunately, you don't get a one-on-one TA at home. So I would sit with him, and some of the things that we were able to see in their social studies classes were amazing. And I want to see more of that, just the diversity, like some of the things that Barb had touched on previously. But this is work that, we need to take the lead from our students. Our students are pretty much already there. They're speaking to us. We have amazing students on the committee with us right now. As adults, I think sometimes we're just a little bit behind the ball. But we need this. We have students right now where it's a social emotional issue as well, that they need to feel supported. And with the culturally responsive teaching in the building as well, it's definitely helped a lot. So I am in huge support of this.
Thank you. April McAllister.
So DEI is new to me. As a parent with elementary kids, I haven't been exposed to much of the program yet. But I also understand it's also very new to this district. It's only 2 years old, and that it was developed and introduced at a time that there wasn't as much of a variety on this board when this policy was passed and this program was passed through. So I guess as a parent, and speaking on behalf of a lot of other parents who are bringing up children who haven't been exposed to this program yet, my concern is what else is being introduced under the umbrella of DEI. And as much as it's important to support DEI, I believe there's things that are coming in that are being imposed on all children that is causing more division. So so parents that I've talked to, they want to know, why is there such a hyper focus on certain groups of people? They want to know, is the district doing things to communicate with parents and residents and all students, even the students who are afraid to speak up? So what I've learned from educating myself and speaking to people who are living through this right now with older kids in the middle school and high school is that there's a lot of questions and concerns about what's rolling out. And I think that just needs to be reevaluated. I think there's a lot of people are saying that critical thinking is being used to mask the introduction of non-school related topics through this program. So I think it's important to introduce this DEI for students, but I also think that the main focus should always be the academics and uniting them.
Thank you. Mark Reamer?
Diversity, I think we have diversity. We're going to have even more of it as the future rolls on. Equity means kids being equal. I think that vastly our teachers are trying to make that happen. Inclusion's a sticky one. Kids are being bullied for a lot of different reasons, from their appearance to their size, to their economic status, to their gender preference, right down the line. And I think that what I've seen so far of it, it seems like it's a very narrow focus. And I watched that lesson video several times that was, I think, done here at the high school. And I think some of the things that are in there, parents are going to have a real problem if they're presented to their kids. I just would think that we might want to consider allowing parents to opt out. That's really all I have to say.
Thank you. We will be moving on to the next question now. The social emotional well-being and overall mental health of students is a high priority for schools right now. What do you see as your role as a Board of Education member in supporting the mental well-being of our Guilderland students? We'll be starting with Gloria Tollhilt.
Well, you have to remember that the board has about 3 real roles. One of them is to hire the superintendent. The other one is to set policy. And it's really important that people realize that the way the board moves is how it allocates resources, because we have an obligation to put a budget together and to put those resources in the areas that have been prioritized, not by us, the board, but by ourselves, the district office, the parents, the teachers, and all the communication that's occurred. So what we try to do is to take the resources and then put them in that direction. Social emotional learning has been identified over and over again in our thought exchanges, in people that have written to us, people that come to board meetings and speak at the beginning or the end. This is a big worry from the parents' piece, also from the staff. So we know that it is a top priority, and that's why we have designated funds. We have in the budget made sure that we have done what we can do to make sure that the staff has the training that it needs to help our students, and that the staff has the resources they need to continue the development of social emotional learning.
Thank you. Barbara Federico.
Social emotional learning and mental health are 2 issues that are very difficult for a board to assess. We have to depend upon, as I think Gloria mentioned, the feedback that we get from parents, from students, teachers, what the needs are. And again, with the budgetary constraints that we have to prioritize. I know this year we have been able to use some federal funds to work programs in that direction. We've begun the Positivity Project in the elementary schools, which might take a while to bear fruit as we, go through time. But I'm hoping that as youngsters are exposed to these concepts of respect, empathy, etc., that those characteristics will carry through as they get into the middle school and then into the high school. The board is aware that anxiety has skyrocketed. We're one of the few schools that have actually a mental health clinic for our students at the middle school. It's very well attended. It helps because parents were telling us that it was difficult for them to get kids, because they have to work, to see these counselors. And so our district was able to unite with some outside agencies and provide this service. It's small, there's need for more, but we're doing what we can with the dollars that we have. Thank you.
Thank you. Katie DiPiero.
Yes, I agree. It is, we've heard from, the community has spoken, and it's important to address social emotional learning for students, and it's a need, and it's documented that there were rising concerns prior to the pandemic, and then you added on isolation, and naturally the issues increased, and we needed to help students reintegrate back into being in the social environment of school, and so these initiatives are important. Also, one of the concerns with social emotional learning, and part of the policy, is that when the pandemic came, there was already a drug crisis prior to that, and just really some of that drug prevention work, looking at that as part of the social emotional needs, schools helping however they can to work with drug prevention. And also really the programs that we have, Safe Place, and supporting and allowing students to use their pronouns is a social emotional learning responsibility of a school community as well. So I think that a lot of the work that comes under that all is responsibility of the board to make sure that we are supporting every student in that manner also.
Thank you. Nicole Coonrad.
Yes, I definitely think mental health it needs to be a priority at this point. With everybody just coming off of the pandemic and the amount of weight that children have had to carry the last couple of years during the pandemic, I think that's very important and something that we need to focus on. My concern with social emotional learning, I feel teachers already have a lot to do, and introducing more into their curriculum, I think it has to be dealt with delicately. I do think that there are parts of it where some parents would like to be able to discuss some of these things at home, and not so much in the school. So again, just a delicate introduction of it would be what I would like to see. And yeah, just, respect for our teachers, and that they only have a certain amount of time in the day, and they have a lot that they have to do in that time. And, they're not the only ones raising our children. Parents are involved and community is involved, and, some of this stuff can be taken care of outside of school.
Thank you. Kimberly Blasiak.
Yeah, as Gloria and Barb had said previously, we're a little limited, at least at the board level, for what we're actually able to do. Social emotional learning, I guess personally, I look at that mostly as our social workers, our school psychologists, our guidance, anything that's helping our students feel safe. Ideally, right now, yes, we would have the funding for more people in the buildings. I mean, I can say I personally advocated towards our elected officials this year for more funding, more state funding in our budget for this. I know they did 15 million extra, but when you think it's statewide and it's for specific schools, that's kind of spread thin. Right now, we have I believe 1 to 266 ratio of social workers to students within our schools. And there's also a difference of our school psychologists. We have them in the building, but yet there's a difference between the general education and the special education psychologists. Right now, our teachers they're doing all they can do, because really we need to be worried about their social emotional welfare as well. They're people, they're human beings. So outside of school, it's difficult for all of us as families and parents, because I think some of us throughout the years have passed on lists of school, of psychologists and therapists, almost like recipes. Because either you don't have the insurance they're covering, they're not taking people, they're not taking that age. No matter what, we're in a crisis right now, whether it's in school or out of school. So this is something that we absolutely need to take action on. How is the hard part? Again, and I hate to keep saying it, but we have to keep pushing our elected officials at this point for the funding as well, because otherwise it's going to be coming from our taxpayers, and they've made it clear they don't want the taxes to keep going up. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have April McAllister.
So for social emotional learning, I have some concerns along with the other board members about, this is a need for our children right now after everything they've been through with the pandemic. Currently, there's concerns that this program is incorporating this vocabulary into the learning. Is it putting too much on the teachers? Is it a delivery system for other programs and other ideologies that might be coming into the curriculum? I think a lot of things are, again, like I said before, being masked under titles and snuck in. And if our district had the academic ratings that they once had, I think there would be room to introduce, more individual systems of learning. But right now, our academic ratings are not where they were. And after coming off the pandemic and seeing students who need the basics, math, science, reading, writing, it's a lot for them to even comprehend the basics when they've lost so much time. So then to have to add on that level of adding in a vocabulary that the kids don't even understand. I mean, my daughter couldn't even get through a math problem without it being imposed on her that she had to call part of the math problem a he or a she. And I think it's too much for the kids. I think it's too much for the teachers. And I think we can support our students socially and emotionally without incorporating a new vocabulary for them on the basic academics that they require.
Next, we have Mark Reamer.
I think that there are, notwithstanding the pandemic, which has been horrible, there are a lot more stresses on all of us, especially our children in today's society. It's nothing like it was when I grew up or even when my children grew up. That being said, I have more questions about this social emotional learning concept because I've just found out about it in the last week than I have answers, truthfully. I think that the pronouns being taught to all students isn't necessary. It should be dealt with on an individual basis. That's all.
Okay, next we have Jennifer Romano.
Yeah, of course, mental health is equally as important to a child as their physical health is. We have an alarming rate of anxiety among our children, whether it's the pandemic, the negative effects of social media, one can never quite know. But we do need to address the mental health of our students, and not only them, but our staff as well. I know as a mom, if I'm having a bad day, I have an impact on my children's well-being as well. If we could increase mental health first aid training, perhaps create and educate students, staff, and parents to the early warning signs so we can identify at-risk students, that might be beneficial. If we could provide effective interventions before we have a problem, that would be ideal as well. I think parent empowerment, encouraging them to be advocates, like Kim has mentioned several times, and providing just resources for maybe managing things like social media or social emotional wellness as well. Part of what I want to try to bring to the district is just an increase in volunteerism. And if we can get a volunteer/fundraising task force set up, maybe we can draw people in who have yoga experience that might be able to come in free and teach our children how to meditate or cope in other ways. I think we have a lot of talents in our community that are being underutilized. And I think parents want to help. I think if we make these opportunities known, that people will step up and cost-free. You know, maybe we can make good things happen. Thank you.
Thank you. Last but not least, we have Kelly Person.
Repeat the question just one more time. I'm
Yes.
a little lost.
The social emotional well-being and overall mental health of students is a high priority for schools right now. What do you see as your role as a Board of Education member in supporting the mental well-being of our Guilderland students?
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So nobody ever said that we don't want any extra mental health professionals around. I think the more the better, always. Nobody said, no, we don't need social workers. No, we don't need psychologists. Please don't send them. We want them. We need them. I think the children need them. I think the teachers need them. Everybody. They're here for the whole community. I think our job as a board member is to provide the resources to get to where we want to get to, and to manage all the different priorities that we have, again, and remanage them as different things come up. So I think we're here to support the administration. We're here to support the staff. We're here to support teachers and students and what they identify as the needs at the time. We're here, again, like Kim said, and like we said before, we don't have the funding for everything. We're never going to have the funding for everything. So we need to advocate to keep the funding. We need to advocate for grants. We need to advocate for whatever we can from the government, the state government and the federal government, to see what's out there and to continue at least maintaining what we have, if not get more in the future. So the key is to listen to the students, listen to the staff, and manage what we have in the most effective way we can. Thank you.
Thank you. We are moving on to our next and last question. As a Board of Education member, how would you approach making decisions that would potentially affect you or your family? For example, school start time, redistricting. First, we have Katie DiPiero.
Certainly being, you know, a member of the school community, your decisions, your experience, you bring it with you for making your decision. But one of the things that is important as a board member is that community members have been provided opportunities and ways to provide their input, their feedback, their priorities. And so it's really looking at the information that comes in from the community besides just your own experience and seeing what the priority is for supporting most of the people in the community. And also looking at the information that comes back from the teachers and from the schools, and looking at, for example, start time. You know, there's research that you look at, and there's task force that go through the research and bring the information to the board. And so I think that you have to weigh all of that together. What is the research? What is the data that comes directly from our schools, from our task force, from our community members, and putting that all together. You know, certainly your own experiences are going to have some impact on your decision, but you know, that's part of why we are, you have a group on the board. It's a group of people working together with different experiences, different feedback to bring. And again, it's those committees and those task force are bringing the information, but it's important to look at the data that relates specifically to our schools.
Thank you. Next is Nicole Coonrad.
Yes, I definitely think it will be a little challenging to separate the fact that I am a parent with children in the school from just looking at problems that may come up or situations like the time change. But I don't think I would have an issue with that. I think I can, you know, step outside the box and look at it as a whole, because really I think the board is obviously here to represent the community as a whole and all the children. I think I do a pretty good job at being able to put myself in somebody else's shoes and put others first before myself. So I think it would be a challenge, but I think I could handle it just fine.
Thank you. Next we have Kimberly Blasiak.
Yep, I'm going to ask if you can read the question for me.
Yes, of course.
quickly. Thank you.
As a board member, how would you approach making decisions that would potentially affect you or your family? For example, school start time or redistricting.
Well, as a board member currently, there have been situations where we have discussed things, and I've actually brought it to the open within a board meeting. For example, the 6 bubbles. My second grader is part of one of those bubbles that's going up to 3rd grade. I've made that known twice, so I'm pretty transparent with that. At least when it comes to other decisions, I am kind of the queen of compartmentalization because I have so much going on. So I'm a firm believer that you're wearing one hat at a time. So on the board, if we're discussing things, for example, school start time, I'm lucky enough to be in a boat where as long as you tell me what time my kids are coming, I'm going to send them. So with that, we need community input, which we are getting through letters to the board, through people speaking up. But the more the community comes forward and actually interacts with the board and lets us know, like, even if you can't come to a meeting, just send a letter and say for public comment to the board, and it'll be read. The more we hear from our community, the more we're able to speak for everyone. When it comes to like things for my kids in general, I'm probably not the greatest person to ask because again, my family is an open book. So I make it very known from the beginning if something involves us. And that's never part of a decision. If there ever comes a time where there is something that's a little too close to home, for example, when we had to vote on accepting money from the Pine Bush PTA for a playground, I abstained because I was the treasurer, I wrote the check. So it's not really going to be too much of an issue because I've been doing it anyways, but as long as you're transparent and you're open and people know that, look, my kid is involved in this and you are speaking to your community, I think it's fine.
Thank you. Next, we have April McAllister.
It is my exact role as a parent that I think qualifies me to have a seat on the board. It's that role as a parent that has allowed me to communicate with so many other parents and residents of the community and really find out through these conversations that so many of the concerns of family dynamics in our community, you know, when they have questions or concerns with the district, the common denominator a lot of times comes back to the board. And when certain rules are set in place, whoever they affect, a lot of times people are too scared to ask questions or push back. And when you do start asking, a lot of arrows point to decisions that were made here, which is what led me down this road. I was in a few personal situations in my elementary school, and I had to ask questions and go through the teacher and the principal, and then ultimately end up to the superintendent. And a lot of parents are going through those things, and we're finding out that this is where a lot of the answers stem from. So I think being part of the family dynamic is what's going to help bring more awareness to when those decisions are made. And I also think there's certain things like school start times that, you know, we can't keep living in a world where we're catering and adapting to everybody. There's just certain rules that we as parents have to follow and encourage our children to do so too without complaining. So I think there's a certain element of following certain rules.
Thank you. Next, we have Mark Reamer.
I'm running that I'm going to be an advocate for parents, so I would first listen to the residents of the district and get their views. Secondly, I would think about what I feel is right, and I have a good sounding board. Thirdly, what I usually do when I come down to a close situation is I have this stupid, simple little thing where I put a line on a piece of paper and I put the pros and cons of each side, and it usually makes your decision for you really fast.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Romano.
Yes. As a consultant, I learned how to be objective. It's, you know, as a board member, I'm here to represent everyone, our families, staff, administrators, educators. It's not about me at all. Honestly, I prefer surveys. I like to look at data. I think they'll tell us and they'll give us the answers and point us in the direction we need to go. Just running in this election, I'm talking to so many people and learning so many things that in the end, I'm just a representative. I believe in transparency. I would be an advocate for the people and just merely a conduit to get their feelings expressed to the board.
Thank you. Next, we have Kelly Person.
Thanks, right. So we all have kids on the board, or we had kids on the board, or we have some sort of interest in what's going on in the school district. If we didn't, I don't think we would be here. So I think it's part of our job to, I'm going to steal, I think it was Kim that said it, to compartmentalize, you got it, it all out. I mean, I'm not a professional in school start times. I'm not a professional in mental health. I'm not a professional in any of this, but our job is to take the data and take the expertise we have from everybody else and make a decision based upon what we have at that given time. We have a task force developed for school start times. We don't have a lot of great answers for school start times. We've all kind of figured that out if you've listened at all recently. We're going to have to make the decision, and it's not going to be based upon if my kid gets up earlier or your kid gets up earlier or whatever. I mean, again, we're fortunate in that we have the flexibility. You know, I'm home. We can do what we need to do. Not everybody has that flexibility, so I think we have to listen really hard to our community and weigh the data and the information we're getting here from the professionals with the needs of the community and the equity of it. So it's a hard decision. There's hard decisions to make, and nobody's going to be happy. But to answer the question is yeah, we're all going to have opinions, but we need to set that aside and rely on information from the community and our task forces and the professionals that are assisting with the process. Thanks.
Thank you. Next, we have Gloria Tolhilt.
Well, as a retiree, I think the number one issue that confronts us that would affect me would be the budget, being on a fixed income. Many of the other issues, I have the way to sit back and I can listen. I enjoy listening to people because it's amazing to me, if you approach something from your own point of view, you may kind of cut out those others, but not having maybe a vested personal interest in whether the start time is this or that, I can listen to others. But I also agree, the listening is a strong piece, and I really do believe that. But I also think we need the data. We need to gather the information so that we can look at the broader picture, because sometimes, you only get a piece of it. And so I think the listening piece is important, gathering the data, and then coming to some conclusion. I liked what Jen said, and I know Dr. Wiles always gets on me, because I like when things come to me. I want to know, you're recommending this. What did you consider as the pros? What did you consider as the cons? I like to look at that before I come to some decision.
Thank you. Last but not least, we have Barbara Federico.
Well, I guess it's no secret that I have been one of the longest proponents of a later start time for high school kids. Many states in our nation have recognized the scientific data that teen years, you can actually test the levels of hormones, et cetera, within the child's body. Can't really fall asleep until 11 o'clock or thereabouts. And California, I think New Jersey is considering it now, Minnesota has had it for years, that high school start times cannot start earlier than 8:30 in the morning. The data is just so clear that the kids need the extra sleep that they get by having a later start in the morning. The problem that we as a district have, however, is that it is not a statewide mandate. So we on the board are struggling with a couple of competing interests. You don't want to lose class time for students, instructional time, but like our BOCES program doesn't coincide with our start time. Whereas if the state set a start time of 8:30 for all school districts, for the high school start time, then those kinds of schedules could merge much more quickly and safely. I still believe in the later start time and would hope that we could do whatever we can to make it a reality for our students.
Thank you. At this point, we will be hearing closing remarks from the candidates, starting with Barbara Federico.
Well, I guess my closing remarks have to first of all be a thank you to the community for all the years that you've reelected me. As your spokesperson, I guess I've been known to intently research any topic that has come before the board. I have been the voice of students, parents, community members, administrators, and have presented their requests, to our board in a collegial way, I would hope, and I think I have a reputation for that. I've loved what I've done. I honor each student and care about each student, want them to succeed. Again, I just want to take a couple of minutes of my time to respond to, again, some sort of, I guess, smear campaigns, again, that have been in the paper, basically indicating that because I've served so long and that I'm closed-minded. Well, when I look at the 1 year that I served with the gentleman who said I was closed-minded, we didn't differ on any but 2 votes. One vote was a request from a parent that had a very talented 7th grade student who wanted to swim on the varsity swim team. State education law allowed it, but it had to be approved by the school district. So I voted in favor of giving the child the opportunity to soar, as I would with any child for anything, including enrichment, honors courses, etc. The other vote had to do with our discussions in public comment at the end of our period. And I proposed that after being on the board for, I don't know if it was 6 or 7 months, what I noticed is that a lot of business happens between the public comment period at the beginning, and then they have to wait 2 weeks usually for the next board meeting if a public wanted to comment. So I suggested that we add a second comment period at the end of the thing, because I really think we need to hear from the public. We need communication. And again, this gentleman voted against it. So from the standpoint of open-mindedness, I felt that I had been very open-minded about responding to the community. And in looking over the notes from that area, I was also asking for assistant coaches for the girls' sports teams. So I think I still have it in me. I would still love to serve. I've enjoyed every single minute of it. And if you want an independent voice, one that is not controlled by any particular segment, teachers union, parent groups or whatever, I would love to be your servant and continue my service. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Gloria Tolhilt.
Thank you. I, like many of you, moved to this town because I wanted my kids to have the same educational experiences as the other kids in Guilderland. I wanted to be here and have them get what was offered here. As a member of the school board, I have supported decisions that have moved us forward in accomplishing the mission of this district, from inclusion to supporting social workers, to safety protocols, strong academic programs, the arts, music, and sports. I believe we educate the whole child, and we work always to give every child the best possible learning environment. I will continue my commitment to our work on diversity, equity, and inclusion, to prioritize academic, social, and emotional needs of our children, and to seek ways to develop strong homeschool partnerships. We have set this path over a number of years. I think we need to continue to pursue this path. I believe it's the right path. Our schools unite us as a community, and our community has always valued and supported our schools. We should be proud of what we have built. I like to close with a true story that always leaves me with a smile. During my time teaching 7th grade social studies, I began to bring a group of 12 students to volunteer to serve lunch at Albany's South End in a soup kitchen. One day, as we were leaving to board our buses to get back to Farnsworth, a woman stopped and asked me, "Where do you get these students?" I replied, "Oh, they're my Guilderland 7th graders." And she said to me, "Well, you certainly grow good kids in Guilderland." And I couldn't agree more. Thank you.
Thank you. Next will be Kelly Person.
So again, thanks to the PTA for putting this on. Thanks to our students. You guys can't see, but they're all doing the cameras here, and they always do at the board meetings. So thanks for being here. So look, our job is to provide a roadmap here for our district, and everybody's going to have competing priorities, and we're going to have to decide at some point what's reasonable, what's responsible, what's achievable, taking into account everybody's thoughts. The funding is always going to be tight. Always. That's not a thing to have a lot of funding for schools. We need to advocate to keep this historic state and federal funding that we have right now so we can keep the programs that are going on. I thought about this along the way. If there was two things that I would want to run perfectly in our school, it would absolutely be, I want perfect transportation and perfect communication. And I think if we could do those two things, and if this is the time to rally for more bus drivers, I'll take my 2 minutes and rally for people, because it would solve so many problems if we just had 7 more bus, I don't know, I have to talk with it now, whatever it is, we will fix this. And so, again, that's what I would love to see. Perfect transportation, perfect communication. I don't think it's either are possible, but we work towards it. And thank you to the staff to try to do that for the past couple of years. Again, I think I'm really proud of our focus on DEI. It's not a program, it is a way of life. It is what we're gonna do forever. We're not other people, this is our community, and we wanna support our community. There's nobody, I'm gonna leave the deal. I get a little bit excited about it, so I'm gonna leave it right there. We wanna continue doing it. Again, our job is just to manage the resources that we do have in the best way we can for our community. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, we have Jennifer Romano.
School board elections have really kind of become a microcosm of the division in our nation. And personally, I find it extremely exhausting, dysfunctional, and unproductive. We cannot continue on the path of us versus them, right versus wrong, choose a side, pick a slate. Education is our path forward together, and I believe my empathy, objectivity, and integrity will serve as a bridge that we need to heal and move forward. I've always been a highly sensitive, empathetic person. It has enabled me to cut through the noise and really listen to people's concerns, collaborate on effective solutions, and enact positive change. Running independently has allowed me to stay focused on my visions for our schools and concentrate on the issues. My platform focuses on 3 major pillars: safety first, DEI, and leveraging our greater community. Our students are struggling with high levels of anxiety. Our schools and families are struggling to do more with less while recovering from a pandemic. If our budget doesn't have a bandwidth to meet all of our needs, then we need to get innovative. We need out-of-the-box thinking and creative problem solvers. We need people willing and able to meet the immense challenges and to work with all stakeholders to implement positive change. I'd like to propose the creation of a volunteer and fundraising task force that would work with key stakeholders to identify and personalize volunteering efforts to aid our employees. It's clear parents want to be involved, but we just don't know how. In my plan for leveraging the greater community, I suggest we add a volunteer campaign to our social media presence and a web page that connects volunteers with opportunities. Maybe we have a few brilliant grant writers in our midst, or like I mentioned before, yoga instructors to teach our children meditation. If we grow our school community together, everyone will feel more invested in its success. There's a natural embodiment of diversity, equity, and inclusion principles that we hold dear when candidates have the courage to run independently. It hasn't been an easy journey to be here this evening. Actually, it's been quite taxing mentally and physically. However, it's been an enriching experience and has reminded me of what I'm capable of. Win or lose, I'm committed to our public schools. So if you value someone with a proven record in our schools for improving safety, generating revenue, advocating for DEI, if you want independent thinking with everyone in mind, someone with unique vision who isn't afraid to be different, someone brave enough to be an upstander our families and schools need, or if you just like rooting for an underdog, then I invite you to learn more about me on Facebook at Jen Romano for Guilderland School Board. And thank you for watching at home. Thanks to the PTA, and for 5 special kids, Erica, Crosby, Jaden, Jordan, and Jensen, for being the first children to ever write an editorial letter for Altamont Enterprise. I'm proud of you for being the upstanders that you are in your community, using your voice and sending a clear message to vote Jennifer Romano on May 17th. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, we have Mark Reamer.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the PTA again for hosting this event. I also want to thank all the listeners that are hopefully out there listening to this so they can make informed decisions when they vote. This has been quite an experience, enriching and difficult after being locked down for 2 years with COVID. There was no business and there was no reason to go anywhere. I've always been a risk taker. I enjoy a challenge, and if I'm elected, I will accept the challenge. My platform is, I'm against CRT. It has not been mentioned tonight, but it just assumes that you are guilty because of your skin color of racism, and I think it just divides us further. I am not for the mask mandates. I am not for the vaccine mandates. I'm pro-parents. I'm pro-teachers. And like I said in the beginning, I just want to bring a balance to the board because I'm very different from a lot of the members on the board currently. And I'm running with the team, Nicole and April and Barb. So that's who I would like you to vote for. Thank you.
Next, we have April McAllister.
Hi. I do want to just thank everybody for welcoming us tonight and giving us the opportunity to get our voices heard. We've, like Mark was saying, we are aligning together, myself, Mark, Nicole, and Barb, and we have taken a lot of hits from the community this past couple weeks. And it's been a challenge because our original vision was to do something good for the community, the parents, and the school. And there was a lot of smear campaigning going on. And I can sit here and tell you that a lot of what was written about us in the local papers is not true. Me personally, I do support diversity, equity, and inclusion. And it is that exact format and platform that was put against me for the last couple weeks. As a Christian, that my own personal walk in faith has been used against me. It's been supported by other board members and posted on social media. And as strong as I feel about my personal walk in this world, and I choose to be a Christian, I respect other people's personal choices and their walks. I don't think there's a time and place for everything, and schools for academics. And I think a lot of the problems can have solutions if we could all just respect and love each other and keep our personal beliefs and walks outside of the bell to bell, 8 to 2, or 9 to 4, I don't know, whatever the new bell to bell is. I just think it's important that as a community, we respect each other and accept each child as they are and separate a time and a place, maybe perhaps after school clubs or community events and things like that. I think school is for school. A lot of parents feel that way. And if I am elected and I get a seat on this board, I want the parents and the people of the community to know that I want to be a voice for them. I have a lot to learn. I'm new to this, but I definitely know this is where I'm supposed to be right now. And if you are viewing this and you see yourself aligning with any of the things that myself, Mark, and Barb and Nicole have said, we just ask you to vote for us on lines 2, 4, 5, and 10. And if you want to see a change, we want to help be part of that change. And thank you for this opportunity, and thank you for giving us the chance to be real and truthful and giving us a space to own that we have a lot to learn, and hopefully we can do that with you along the way.
Next, we have Kimberly Blasiak.
Hi. I thought a lot today about how I was going to end my closing statement. I 100% agree with Jen that I'm exhausted. I'm exhausted from this, and I think everyone sitting up here can probably say the same thing. And I'll start just with my closing thought today, just kept coming back to a story right before we moved here, when I was pregnant with my youngest, and my husband was living in an apartment here, and we were looking at districts, and we came out to the high school because I think back then, maybe 2014, 15, they used to have like a huge fundraiser for the class of whatever, and they used to do this big fun thing, and we came in because this was the district we wanted to be in. So we're from Syracuse area coming in, me out to here with the other three and my husband, and we loved it. It was a community. Like, I remember coming thinking, okay, we so don't belong here because we don't live here, but this is where we're gonna live. And I fell in love with that community, and I still love this community till this day. I became an advocate because my 15-year-old son, Alex, has autism, and we were hit hard when he was 2. And as an advocate and as a parent, you know that when you're hit hard, you either go and you retreat and cry, or you educate yourself and you research. With that came my love of research. I have researched everything in this board. I remember sitting at my old kitchen table in Baldwinsville going, hey, George, I guess they have another section of Italian at the new school, because I'd watched the Board of Ed meetings, and not because I had time, but because it was important. Because I knew that I was gonna have 4 children in this district, and whether I either attended a board meeting or read the website or read the board docs or sent my 50 million emails, and people who were on the board longer than me can attest to the millions of emails of, hey, it's Kim Blasiak again. It was my job as a parent to make sure that whether I felt awkward or not, I was speaking for my child. And I guess at the end of the day today, I ask everyone out there who's afraid to come forth and address the board. I was that person before. I was that scared parent that had something to say about my children. At the end of the day, you have every right to speak for your children, every right. And I implore you, send a letter, send an email, whatever you need to do to feel comfortable to address the board, to get your thing taken care of, do it. That's my job as a board member. I'd also like to say, I agree with April. I addressed it in a message to her that her religion is sacred to her. It is no one else's business to be addressed. That I still will close with that. I'm very sorry that you feel that that's the way it's been. As I said in my message, no one has the right to make you feel that way. And I thank everyone for tonight.
Next, we have Nicole Coonrat.
Yes, sorry. So, just to follow up with what Kim was saying, at a personal experience that I've had, because this whole process has been pretty awful, to be honest with you, with running to be a board member. You know, I'm just a parent who cares. I want to be part of the solution and help. And I've received so much backlash from the community. I've had so many names called. I've been labeled so many different ways, even from people that I know in the community, to be honest with you. But a specific is that I wrote to the board about a concern I had for a book, and that request that I put in was leaked and then made public to everybody. And since then, I have been receiving so much backlash about it. And I don't feel that's right. I feel that parents should be able to express concerns about things to the board members, and they shouldn't have to worry that it's going to be made public to people and that they're going to be judged based on their concerns. And, you know, I've received backlash from teachers, ones that are currently teaching my daughters, you know, call me a bad person, and board members call me a bad person because I did put out this request. And it's just not right. That's not what a board should be. A board should be empathetic and caring and respectful no matter what, even if somebody has a different opinion than yours. It should always remain that way. And I'm not saying all board members. I've had lots of conversations with Kim, and she's always been very respectful to me. And others, I shouldn't, anyways. I was just going off your body language, Kim.
You're okay, I'm sorry.
Our children are watching us, and we're their role models, and the board should represent good role models, and respect, kindness, empathy is huge, and that's what I want to see for the board, and that's why I'm here. Thank you.
Thank you. Last, we have Katie DiPiero.
I want to thank the PTA Council for letting all of us speak and share the information tonight. And, to share that, yes, that I originally became interested in being on the board through my work with building cabinet and from hearing from the board members at PTA meetings. And so I have come together with Gloria, Kelly, and Kim, and we came together out of shared ideas and concerns and priorities for the district. And we've been sharing our message about what we feel is important for the students in the community and for the school district. And I know that lots of community members, as we hope they would, have been gathering information and sharing their opinions, their support, their concerns. And that, there's been a high level of involvement from the community. We welcome that. We want people to ask questions. We want people to learn more about the people who are running for the school board. In certain situations, from what people are sharing, that there's been upsetting responses or information, but I will say that the information that has been put out directly by our group has been to share our message about what we feel are our priorities for students academically, and for what we hope what we want to move forward with from the board has been the message that has been coming from us directly. And again, that people are sharing their concerns, and the only thing I can encourage people to do is to just to continue to ask questions and to read and to learn about the candidates, and to if there's things that they feel that a candidate may support or not support, or what their vision is for the district, is to go ahead and ask all of us. So again, thank you. Thank you for giving us this opportunity as one of the ways to do that. Thank you.
Thank you.
This concludes tonight's forum. I'd like to thank the PTA Council members, GHS Media, and all those who assisted in bringing this program to the voters. Thank you to the candidates for coming tonight, and thank you to all the community members for watching on the GHS Media YouTube channel. Please remember to go out and vote on Tuesday, May 17th at your local elementary school. Thank you again for joining us, and have a good night.